These attacks on innocent people are cowardly. They are not courageous. They are cowardly. If the people behind these attacks were so sure of their beliefs, let them join the political process. Let them come forth to the people of Pakistan in this democracy and make their case that they don't want girls to go to school, that they want women to be kept back, that they believe that they have all the answers and the rest of us who are people of faith have none. Let them make that case in the political arena and see how far they would get. They know they are on the losing side of history, but they are determined to take as many lives with them as their movement is finally exposed for the nihilistic, empty effort that it is.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton today in an emotional press conference. Her visit to Pakistan was greeted by a huge bombing at a women's marketplace in Peshawar. The bombing killed at least 100 people. Against that stomach-turning backdrop today, the Obama administration is, of course, still working to boil down its approach to what the foreign policy in-crowd now calls the AfPak war, as if it is one war in Afghanistan and Pakistan. The politics of the war took a turn so twisted and sensational last night that the new plotline sounds like it's straight out of the cynical, disillusioned American cinema of the 1970s. According to reporting from the New York Times trifecta of Dexter Filkins, Mark Mazzetti, and James Risen, the brother of the president of Afghanistan, the brother of Afghan President Hamid Karzai, widely described as a drug kingpin whose assumed corruption undermines the credibility of the whole Afghan government, and his brother, the president, Ahmed Walid Karzai, and his president, Hamid Karzai. Mr. Ahmed Walid Karzai is also, apparently, according to the New York Times, a longtime employee of us, specifically of the CIA. Current and former American officials tell the Times that brother Karzai helps the CIA by doing lots of things, including operating a paramilitary group, renting out housing to U.S. forces, and acting as a go-between for the Americans and the Taliban. The allegations would be salacious at any time, but this week, after America just lost 7 service members and 3 DEA agents while they were on an anti-narcotics trafficking mission, this week the allegations are more than just salacious, they are explosive, and they may have the political potential to affect the course of the war. As national security reporter Spencer Ackerman put it today at the Washington Independent, quote, CIA money funds a politically connected drug dealer. Opium funds the Taliban. We are in Afghanistan to fight the Taliban. How much CIA money has indirectly funded the Taliban? This nauseating question being asked just as the Taliban claimed responsibility for a daylight attack on Westerners in Kabul, which killed at least 11 people, including 5 UN-related workers. Joining us now is Tim Weiner. He's author of Legacy of Ashes, The History of the CIA. He's also a former national security and foreign correspondent for the New York Times. Mr. Weiner, thanks for joining us tonight.
Rachel, my pleasure.
Legacy of Ashes traces CIA history back to before the beginning. The light you shed on the agency is not particularly flattering. But today, with this story of the CIA funding a man who seems to be all wrong for the American war effort, I just have to ask what you think the CIA's strategy is with him.
Well, the CIA's most effective weapon over the years has been nice stacks of crisp $100 bills. That's how you buy information, that's how you win or rent loyalties, and it's a very effective weapon traditionally in Afghanistan, at least to rent people's loyalties. Paying for information, that's what the CIA does. Renting people, funding paramilitary operations in Afghanistan, the CIA has done that for the better part of 3 decades. What's truly unfortunate here is that there's a presidential runoff election scheduled in Afghanistan in 10 days. The legitimacy of the Afghan government, the entire reason that we've been there for going on 9 years now, has to do with democracy and stability in Afghanistan. And this guy, the president's brother, stole maybe 1 million votes in southern Afghanistan. That doesn't look good for winning hearts and minds.
How coordinated are the military mission in a place like Afghanistan and the CIA mission? Is there mission conflict between what Langley is doing and what the Pentagon is doing? When I look at those 10 Americans killed this week on what is essentially an anti-drug operation, and then learn that we are maybe also subsidizing the man who's alleged to be the biggest drug kingpin in the country, I worry that we're fighting a war against ourselves as much as anybody else.
Among the three great nightmares that President Bush handed on to President Obama, Iraq, the Great Recession, and Afghanistan, it looks like Afghanistan is the one that's going to last the longest. And that is because the harmonization of American military and diplomatic and intelligence policy there hasn't happened, and it didn't happen under President Bush. What you have here is a strategy in the South, that's the president's brother. A strategy in Kabul, that's the president. And a strategy in the east toward the Pakistan border that's about killing people, killing bad guys. Until this is put together by President Obama, and the 7th meeting that he's had on trying to harmonize American policy in Afghanistan is coming up tomorrow, we're going to be fighting and dying there for years and years and years. We've been there longer now than the Soviets were when they occupied Afghanistan in the 80s.
The story here and understanding the implications of the story that was broken by the New York Times is one thing. It's also a story about the story. This just surfaced now for some reason. Somebody decided to give the New York Times this information. When a story this potentially damaging to the CIA leaks, who do you suspect is leaking it, and what's their agenda?
I think the generals dimed out the spooks. The generals are not happy with this. There's often conflict between the ambassador, the station chief, and the senior military people. General McChrystal, who's trying to get tens of thousands more American troops into Afghanistan, cannot be happy with the perception that the American spooks in Afghanistan are behind a crook.
Yeah. Tim Weiner, author of Legacy of Ashes, The History of the CIA, which is not only on my bookshelf, but on the bookshelves of most of the people who work on this show, even before I demanded it. Former national security and foreign correspondent for the New York Times. It's invaluable to have your insight here. Thank you for coming in.
Rich.
Really appreciate it.
Take care.